Today, I'm going to discuss design trends 2021 to 2022. I decided to divide my presentation into several topics. The first will be devoted to the main topics that will be relevant during the pandemic and after. Our reality is changing because we are moving towards the tendency of remote work and full digitalization. Even when the lockdown is over, it's likely that many companies will keep their employees working remotely. In particular, it's about people who have long dreamed of working from home. This shows a possible scenario that only a few will want to go back to their work sites. The lockdown will slow down the overall development of many spheres, businesses, and the economy. Most of the projects, especially startups, will be frozen or postponed. But those projects that can sustain the quarantine will be operating as usual. Everything will be put on hold for the reason that people will be waiting for what happens next and what all this situation will lead to, and will try not to invest in anything because they don't know for sure how things will go. Okay, let's move on to the more interesting and fun part. Our next section is related to the design of this technology. Virtual reality in the next couple of years will go to a new level because of the gaming industry, and its development will be more active than before because there are more wireless glasses already coming out, as well as new consoles. The release of Half-Life Alyx basically turned the world of virtual reality upside down by creating a completely new experience and new impressions for users, and will become an example for other game producers. It's even possible that soon this technology will spread not only in the gaming industry, but also appear in common apps, such as messengers and social networks, VR meetings, etc. The development of this industry is beyond the starting point and has already put on progress and will be developing further. The next technology is augmented reality. Augmented reality is what Apple is now investing in with its AR Kit 3. Apple plans to introduce brand new AR glasses in 2022 to 2023, which will create augmented reality. There are already a lot of AR apps and games. A new application from IKEA has come out in which you can add interior items to your apartment in augmented reality to see how they will look. As augmented reality becomes more popular, it will be developed further as well. Artificial intelligence is not even a trend anymore, but a new reality. Machine learning is already a requirement there. This is not something new, nor an innovation. It is integrated wherever possible. Apple and Google phones are actively using machine learning for face recognition, object recognition, creating folders, sorting photos, collections, albums, etc. All this is created automatically, and this is already becoming a standard and will be integrated into all areas. Search engines, selections, advertising, all this will be created with the help of artificial intelligence, personalization of data, analysis of your personal data, etc. It means that products will not only be able to offer something, but they will also analyze the behavior of people and create relevant collections, which will be interesting to a specific user. And there will be no need to ask people for their preferences or what they like or dislike. The system will be able to recognize us and offer exactly what users are searching for. Voice user interfaces. They already exist and will develop further. Virtual assistants and voice chats are already a part of many people's lives. For instance, home speakers such as Alexa, etc. They can change the way you search for information on the internet and increase the speed of working with interfaces, filing out questionnaires, etc. They all improve the quality of interaction with interfaces and increase the level of trust from users. The next section is the user experience with the flow and navigation subsection. Absurd design. One of the old but still actively integrated ideas which are mostly supported on the web. There are also examples where it is integrated with a mobile version, but with less success. Most likely, this all will have further development. The experiments with navigation on the web, when the menu bar doesn't look like a menu anymore, including different ways of navigating through the site, are still related to the absurd design. In this case, it is important that the navigation corresponds to the flow of information and is not a part of the difficult-to-access element. This way, we can experience as much as we wish. Uninterrupted UX is a very impressive thing. When I started to study it, I began to notice everything because most interfaces are built the way that if you want to see more photos, just click the button. If you want to see the product details, just click the button. If you want to read reviews, click the button. If you want to buy something, add the product to the basket, place an order, then see the message saying you have not signed up yet. So go ahead and sign up, fill in 20 registration fields, add your credit card, agree with all the conditions, confirm the email, etc. Going through all of these steps, the user begins to doubt whether he needs this product. Recently, I tried to place an order on our local all-in-one e-store. I've been using this site for a while. I have an account there. I bought different stuff many times there. And recently, I placed an order and I realized that I needed to fill in at least 10 fields just to make this purchase. It got me like, guys, this is not the first time I buy from you, and every single time I have to fill in the same details. So now it's going to be about finding ways to reuse the information that users have already provided us. Of course, all this should be confidential and followed by ethical standards. It's critical to simplify purchasing items as much as possible. Then the user will be more likely to pay you money. And your job is to make shopping as comfortable and easy as possible for the user. That's what mobile phones have already succeeded in, when you can make a purchase in a single click simply by pressing with one finger or scanning your face using your phone. It is about making it as simple as possible for the user. Inclusive design is what we also discuss in the framework of the case with healthcare. The design must be comprehensive and meet the individual needs of each customer. Old people, children, adults, visually impaired, well-sighted, different nationalities, different gender, different races. The design must try to support different groups and take into account the needs of those groups that have traditionally been left aside. New users will face a challenge. Varying UX is actually an unusual thing. Thanks to new analytics tools, products can not only determine who came to the site, but also adapt the site for certain user experience. For example, the Apple site. These are real screenshots. You can go to the site and see it. It adapts the web page to how fast you scroll. I usually scroll fast. If I go to some landings, I scroll fast because I am most often interested in some kind of visual part of the general feeling. And if there is something that got me excited, then I stop and study the details. So when I first went to the site to see the presentation of the iPhone 11 Pro, it showed me this variation of the cut-down presentation of the phone. But if you go to the same site on the same page anonymously, for example, if I visited the site for the first time, then I get a full presentation of the phone and further description. So, it's an interesting feature that adapts to the behavior of certain users. The next section is writing. Human writing instead of UX writing is not about the substitution of the concept. It's more about text being easy to read, personalized, informal, because people are already tired of the same slogans and the same standard way of advertising products. And standard phrases, people are no longer interested in this. So the content will be created in a dialogue manner with users, with a little humor, and by all means, will try to attract attention so that they become excited and stay on the site. Feelings. Storytelling is literally everywhere, It's already the standard. It's not a trend. It's something that should be in all product presentations. I don't know if you heard it or not, but there is a storytelling subject that is taught in American schools. It teaches you to make a self-presentation, introduce your ideas, thoughts, projects in the storytelling style. For them, it's already a standard of life. For example, a second grader or a third grader can not only come to his dad and say, "Buy me a car." They can make a presentation and explain step by step to the dad and sell the idea why they should buy them a car, so that the dad buys this idea. Now, knowing what storytelling is not enough for us. It should already be a part of our DNA and be used in any presentation of a new brand, product selection, and wherever it is necessary. Value is the difficult part to communicate because this is already a process of transferring the communication of the product with the user into meaning and narration, and not to emotions and feelings. Emotions and feelings will remain. The product will still need to trigger the user's emotions. But now it's not going to be about sweeties and cuties, but more about social impact on society by using the product. It means that in the near future, it will be more about why something is being done and not about what exactly is being done. If we create a product, it will be more about why it's being done and not about what exactly this product is. It's a kind of substitution of concepts. Work and team. The eternal question, should a designer be a developer? Thankfully, not all designers are required to be able to code so far, but it is best to understand the basic principles to avoid creating a design that is impossible to implement or extremely costly. We are lucky that now we have products such as Webflow, Tilda, ReadyMag, using which designers can not only get acquainted with some layout basics, but also create their own pages, understand their work mechanics, etc. We are living in interesting times. Increasing data and design integrations remain without any changes. It is more about data analysis. The teamwork and the teams will have more focus on analytics. More trust within the teamwork will be crucial because brainstorms in design will no longer consist only of designers, but they will also engage analysts, developers, managers, etc. The team decision-making and each team member is important and irreplaceable. More ideas are now considered and taken into account from different spheres of a company. Device synchronization is my favorite one. This is a must-have thing. When you start using it, you realize you want everything to be synchronized between your devices. This is because we acquire more and more devices, and people feel a lot more comfortable if all of these devices behave like one system, are able to synchronize with each other, and this allows us to integrate daily tasks into the system and coordinate them with a lifestyle. For example, you can make a setting for anything on one device and it gets synchronized everywhere. By the way, this is a screenshot from my desktop. Let's say if I open Google Chrome on a tablet or my phone, I instantly see the icon on my computer notifying me that I have a web page open on my phone. And if I click on it, it will immediately open the page on my computer so I can proceed to work with it. Often, I use it to synchronize movies or TV shows. For example, I watch a movie on my computer. Then I go to another place, open it on my tablet, and I continue watching exactly where I stopped. My favorite section is colors. The colors are always a contradiction. The opposing sides of bright and pale colors, actually not pale, but rather natural. This year, the gradients are finally turning into light, dreamy, and subtle minimalist colors. And bright colors are out of trend now. Now we'll be using light colors because the gradients are no longer used to speak up and highlight something, but rather to create a slight feeling of depth, give emphasis, and drop slight shadows. But we'll still see strong colors. It's something that's inevitable. Although the trend is now focused on light colors. Natural colors. We use natural, pleasant colors that are close to real life, but you can still see some bright elements to emphasize something. We will talk about this later. But the color palette now tends to be more pastel and more vital. At the same time, there are still unusual and futuristic patterns and wild combinations. This is especially relevant if there is a strong need to draw a user's attention to something new, because most of today's sites are created in minimalistic style with a chance to be remembered and attract attention. You can often find a bright pattern on some minimalistic sites, for example on the main page or somewhere in the middle, i.e., the section on which users most pay attention to. In fact, it's logical that sites need to attract attention the most. All you have to do is attach a bright, unusual, wild pattern, and everyone will pay attention to it and remember it. Bright UI. This again refers to combining incompatible colors. These are natural colors, but at the same time, bright UI elements such as icons, buttons, backlights. The whole site may look minimalistic, pale, natural, with a couple of bright colors. Typography. I don't think it makes any sense to talk a lot about this. The trend of overlaying fonts on interface elements will continue its development. Combinations of barely compatible fonts and bold headings are something unavoidable, since it goes well with both minimalism and absurd design, and allows you to highlight the idea, as well as to divide content. All this can be done by applying a super bold font. It becomes visually meaningful. I believe that bold fonts and overlap fonts will serve us for a long time. Style and layout. Neomorphism. I read a lot about neomorphism, and it is said that it will still exist and develop. In fact, neomorphism is about repeating a cycle and returning us to the years 2009 and 2012 to the now unpopular skeuomorphism, but in a new shape. This is also related to virtual reality and augmented reality development because this is literally about creating a 3D effect on a plane surface. This is all interconnected, and specialists believe that neomorphism is perfectly combined with minimalism. They simply merge them together and now come up with new solutions for shadowing and other types of styles. It's believed that it will become even more popular. But neomorphism also has a slight drawback. It is not accessible for everyone. If a person has poor eyesight, they may neither see these shadows normally nor notice the separation of blocks. Or, if a device has low color rendering, if it's an old device, then it's not a viable solution. To be honest, I doubt it will be applied everywhere, but I just wanted to let you know about it. But one thing we will have for sure is dark mode. Since last year, Apple has strongly recommended for all apps to integrate a dark mode, and soon it will not just be a recommendation, but a mandatory requirement. As far as I see it, it's most likely that dark mode for Apple and Android apps will be a mandatory criterion before it is released. All top brands have already introduced the dark mode. Here are examples of Instagram and Facebook. Many sites are already implementing the dark mode. Basically, most users like it and approve it. Many users even use the dark mode by default, and it's going to become even more popular. There will be an increasing number of apps with dark mode. Among the major advantages of the dark mode is a significant battery saver, and it does not harm your eyesight. Empty space. There is a new trend of empty spaces, which is also associated with minimalism and the way the human brain works, because it is much more difficult to perceive information when it's overloaded on a page, and it's much easier to perceive it if there is little information on the page and if it is a single block surrounded by plenty of empty space. This gives us maximum perception and processing of information. Asymmetric layouts. Web. They appeared mainly because people got tired of the same sites that are built under the same bootstrap grids or any other grids. they have gotten boring. There have been developed asymmetric layouts to personalize and add more dynamics to the sites. I even came across a site that was divided into two parts, like a split screen, and there was different information on the product on these two parts, or even some unrelated topics. For example, two different categories of the site. One is placed on the first half and the other on the second part. This is done to cause wow effect, something which users don't expect to see. There is such a thing that is used for ordinary sites called grid splitting. Grid splitting is when one type of grid is used on one block and another type used on the other block. This is done to switch attention so that the content does not look monotonous. Different blocks are built in different ways, and this way users switch attention between them. Illustrations and unusual illustrations. There is an increased number of unusual illustrations coming out in the design. Everything transforms into a more artistic and unusual style, more creative, with some sort of drawings. Users are not getting surprised by standard and classic illustrations. These standard stock illustrations will remain and still be relevant for a commercial standard product, but if you need to attract attention or surprise in a certain way, then designers apply hand drawings or bright illustrations for this purpose. Soft shadows, layers, and floating elements. It's something that already exists, but it is still gaining popularity. We are now leaving behind the flat elements and moving towards the voluminous ones. More volume is created thanks to these soft shadows. This is again associated with the 3D development and with the development of augmented reality and virtual reality. This is already used both in mobile and the web. All these floating elements are aimed at creating the feeling that it is all voluminous and everything is floating in front of you, just right here. Just click on it and take it. Mixing photography and graphics. This is not a new topic either. It is still used and will be used. This includes the collage effect, the effect of an unusual photograph. If an unusual illustration gives a shock effect, then in the case of photo fusion it gives a softer effect, which can surprise in a certain way, or make something interesting, individual and enhance, or highlight something by adding a photo. Abstract data visualization. No matter how we style our tablets, graphs, lists, databases, it starts to look outdated, unattractive, and tedious. Therefore, there are ideas on how to visualize the data in such a way that it does not look like data, but more like common information flow and more exciting by supplementing it with graphs and tables. These are the screenshots from the site with an interesting approach to data visualization. They have used an extraordinary visualized technology of their product. It's not just tables, but there are illustrations that you can play, pull, move, etc. It's quite illustrative and interesting. Fabulous product photos. It was introduced last year, and it also involves 3D and graphics, and it is more about surrealism with the key idea of stunning buyers and attracting their attention. Some people call it shocking content, because it demonstrates some unreal objects, unrealistic elements, and forces potential consumers to use their imagination to view and stay longer on the site. Minimalism and buttonlessness. Since the amount of information that every person digests every day is constantly growing, now users tend to avoid visual garbage and mainly choose interfaces that do not require a lot of effort to work with. That is why minimalism is starting to be used everywhere. Minimalistic websites, phone interfaces, they will become even more popular. The tendency to use bottomless interfaces to make the design more native to common gestures like swipes and scrolling will become even more popular. Fewer actions, more effect. Animations, micro-interactions. Often, we don't even notice they are there, but if they suddenly disappear, we will notice that they are absent. They basically create an effect of completeness of an app. What I mean is that they add some perceptible charm and increase the quality of interaction with certain elements and draw attention to small details. Generally, micro-interactions can bring the product to a new level of interaction. Validation and page redirects are especially helpful in this case. This small feature is extremely useful. Animated illustrations. They add more details and can reinforce the importance of a block. For example, if you need to add storytelling, you can use animated illustrations to somehow show the user what to do instead of telling him what to do. It also refers to attracting attention and creating a sort of emotional linking between the user and the interface, increasing engagement, especially if you can interact with the animation by clicking on it. Animated illustrations are extremely exciting, and this is the most effective way of storytelling. The example in the top shows us the case when ad boarding is made using animated illustrations, and you don't need to read the text because you can just look at the animation and understand what they are trying to tell you. Finally, the main part, which is the top of all currently existing trends. It is the 3D graphics and 3D animation. Given the new features of web browsers and mobile applications, we widely support various 3D elements and their interactions, and not only allow to show a product or service, but also introduce it in a much more fascinating way, create a wow effect, and imitate the feeling of a real product. Not only does it allow you to see the product, but you can also rotate, disassemble, and touch it. Like Americans would say, "It's real, I can smell it." It creates an effect that you not only see a 3D model in front of you, you wish you could touch it, as if you already are holding it in your hands. This feature significantly increases sales. 3D is also used for creating patterns, elements, and illustrations. It creates an effect of something voluminous. 3D volumes of augmented reality, a sort of a supplement. Some new volume, which is not only real, but also surrealistic and new. At the same time, the traditional 3D geometry will still remain as a trend, which perfectly integrates into the idea of both minimalism and absurd design, as well as into abstract compositions. It allows you to emphasize a brand or a product, but at the same time, the type of design remains minimalistic and light. 3D is now probably the largest sphere where you can be creative without limits. This is where you can design whatever you want. There are no restrictions at all. You can do products, patterns, scenes, separate elements, etc. And the integration into sites and applications is not even some kind of new feature. It is something that will force the users to download your application and use it. In addition, the last 2 points to discuss is what I already said during our retro. This is mobile first for the web. The point is that more people use mobile phones for work and stay in constant touch with employees and customers, etc. More people use mobile phones for surfing the internet, and most of the site visitors are mobile users. That's why web development is now switching from the standard web interface to the mobile web. There are even sites that first created a mobile interface version, and only after the main web interface. This is also due to web applications, i.e., when you can install a web page on your phone as an app. I already have several web applications installed on my phone. They take up 10 times less memory space. Everything works just like ordinary applications. For example, I installed a Facebook web page on my phone. Why should I use the Facebook app if I can simply install the web page shortcut? It does not consume any memory space and works perfectly. It's really cool stuff. You should check it out. There are already browsers for mobile phones, which are specifically created for mobile phones that adapt to the way you work using your mobile. If you take the standard browsers such as Safari or Google, they work almost the same way like on the desktop version. The screenshots in the presentation are taken from the Keek app. It is fully adapted for a mobile version, and it works specifically as a mobile web browser. What I mean is that all these swipes, scrolls, and switching are adjusted to how a person works with his mobile phone rather than with a desktop browser. The last point discusses tactile interfaces. I think it would be more appropriate to find a photo of a watch, but I was doing this presentation at 10 p.m. yesterday, and I didn't find a better picture of a watch. But what I found was these beautiful rings. There are more and more wearable devices such as rings, pendants, all kinds of fitness bracelets, and others coming out. They have a higher tactile interaction with them. Now, developers are integrating touch panels into watches for better manipulation or just for checking some information. If we take more simple watches like smartwatches or fitness bracelets, developers are now building in all kinds of switching vibrations and other useful stuff through tactile features. There are also watches that are controlled by an outer crown. The development of all these new wearable devices will create new challenges with finding ways to interact with them, what interface will be used, if they will actually be used, how to handle it, how it will all be synchronized, and how it will lead us to the future of flying vehicles. That's it. This meme didn't make you laugh, so I suppose I chose the right one.